Hi guys, welcome to today's video and welcome to another WWE reaction. This video was recommended by Sophia Niarba and she said, Bunny react to self-made wrestlers that got themselves over. See, I have no idea what got themselves over mean. Let's Google it. Oh, it's get over yourself, like humble down, right? Something you say to tell someone to stop thinking that they are more important than other people, especially when they are complaining about something. Oh yeah, there's a couple of them there, like Ethan Page, currently Roman Reigns. So yeah, I agree.
Usually when a wrestler gets pushed
There you
to
go.
the top of the card,
Roman Reigns.
it's because management has specifically chosen them for the role, as can be seen with performers such as John Cena or Roman Reigns. Sometimes, though, a wrestler will get themselves over with crowds and earn themselves a main event position through sheer force of will. But who are the biggest examples of wrestlers getting themselves over with fans? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be looking at today.
Okay.
And where better to start than with perhaps the most historically significant one of all, and that's Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yes, well, he might be remembered as the biggest babyface the industry has ever seen at this point. Back in the mid-90s, Steve Austin was supposed to be the ultimate villain, someone who would jump you from behind, spit in your face, then give you the finger as he was leaving. The only problem with this, though, was pretty quickly after he debuted in WWF in 1996,
He went against Vince.
fans realized that Austin's antics were just about the coolest thing going. And so because of that then, a few pockets of fans here and there began cheering him. And over time, those pockets grew to the point it felt like a majority of people in any given crowd were supporting the Rattlesnake.
Yep.
It didn't matter how heelish his actions were each and every week on Raw, he'd still be beloved anyway. Hell, when he cheated to win the Royal Rumble in January of 1997, he was given a hero's response. And so at this point, WWF were forced to listen to the growing movement and turn him babyface at WrestleMania 13. Of course, you all know what happened after that. Stone Cold became arguably the biggest star the wrestling industry has ever seen, and was probably the person most responsible for rescuing WWF from the brink of bankruptcy. Would this have happened if he hadn't gotten over with fans in such a natural way?
This move helped the company a lot.
It's highly unlikely, as part of the appeal of Austin was always that he was a man of the people, and so the fact he was the people's choice and not the company's only added to his aura. But Steve Austin isn't the only person who's gotten himself over with fans over the years.
Who else?
No, there are plenty of other examples of this too, such as our next subject, the man whose chants of yes pretty much took over WWE in 2013 and 2014. It's time to talk about Bryan Danielson. That's right, the Yes Movement was probably the biggest incidence of audience rebellion in modern wrestling history. Sure, Bryan Danielson had always been beloved by fans as far back as his days in Ring of Honor, where he was widely considered to be the best in the world. But once he got to WWE in 2009, and those same fans saw the way he was treated by Vince McMahon, things reached a whole new level altogether. Not immediately, of course. No, it took a while for things to build up to critical levels, as WWE fans that had never seen the American Dragon over on the Indies got a chance to become familiar with his work. And once they did, and were added to the pile of increasingly frustrated viewers then, things were allowed to reach a boiling point when, at WrestleMania 28 on April 1st, 2012, Danielson was beaten by Sheamus in just 18 seconds. That's right. In what was taken at the time as a huge burial of a generational talent, the Washington native ate a pin and lost his World Heavyweight title before his opponent could even break a sweat.
No way.
Angry over this, fans took to drawing out the shows with yes chants to an increasingly loud level over the next 2 years, with things eventually reaching a point that it was disrupting WWE's ability to put on a show. Not that anyone should feel bad for WWE here, though. No, all they had to do to stop this was push Daniel Bryan to the moon. But with this being late period Vince McMahon we're talking about, he buried his head in the sand and fought such a decision for as long as humanly possible. In the end, though, even he had to give in to the power of the Yes Movement, and so that was why at WrestleMania 30, in one of the most cathartic moments ever seen...
I think this year was the year when he got sued for having chants yes in a different company, because apparently they copyrighted it. Like WWE copyrighted the yes chants, and Daniel can't even use it in a different company.
Inside of a wrestling ring,
because
Bryan
you can copyright yes.
Triple H, Batista, and Randy Orton all in the same night to become WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Really, if we're talking about iconic moments of the PG era, this has to rank up there with the best of them. In fact, the only one you could argue was even better came a few years earlier and involved our next subject.
CM Punk.
Who are we talking about here? Why, CM Punk, of course.
Yeah.
Now, like with Bryan Danielson, CM Punk had long been a hero of hardcore wrestling fans back in the early 2000s, with his run in Ring of Honor solidifying him as one of the top prospects out there on the indies. But once he joined WWE in 2005, the fact that he didn't have the height or bodybuilder physique WWE were looking for in a superstar at the time quickly threatened to hold him back in the company. That
Vince
said,
liked big
even
boys.
if WWE were far from all in on the Second City Saint during those early years, fans certainly were, as they saw him for what he was, a great wrestler who was also one of the best mic workers of his generation. And so it was then that live crowds increasingly got behind Punk in droves then throughout the rest of the decade, with him at one point even getting audibly cheered over the likes of D-Generation X at November 2006's Survivor Series. And all this would lead to things reaching their peak when, on the June 27th, 2011 episode of Raw, he cut a work-shoot promo which has since become legendary for breathing new life into a stale WWE product and rocketing him towards the main event scene forever after. Yes, if there were people who weren't all in on Punk before, after his pipe bomb was over, they certainly were. And this directly led to him gaining a 434-day reign with the WWE title and the endless love of a fan base who continue to follow him wherever he went. Hell, this could be seen live and in living color during his debut with All Elite Wrestling in 2021, and then again during his return to WWE at 2023's Survivor Series. But Punk's not the only person who's been massively over with crowds over the past couple of years, because also in WWE, Sami Zayn would create a groundswell of support for himself during his part in the Bloodline storyline. That's right, for as loved as the entire Bloodline angle has been, it was arguably at its very best when Sami Zayn was involved in it. But how did he get to such a level?
Did you notice something about all of these wrestlers except Steve Austin? Let me know what I noticed.
Popularity?
Guess what I noticed in the comments.
He'd always been over with hardcore fans, whether it be during his days on the indies or as part of the NXT roster. His time on the main roster was a different situation, at least initially. Not because he wasn't just as good there as he had been elsewhere, of course. No, Sami was great wherever he was.
Yeah, Sami's
But once
good.
on Raw and SmackDown, it felt very much like his booking wasn't doing him any favors. That said, once Triple H took over as head of creative in 2022
we love
and
Triple
started
H.
allowing Zayn to interact with Roman Reigns on screen,
He did so
something
good.
magic was created,
Yeah.
and things reached the next level. Yes, this
Oh
was
my
the era
God.
of Sami Uso.
That's perfect. Oh my god, in the middle of the video. Okay, let's repeat this.
And allowing Zayn to interact with Roman Reigns on screen, something magic was created, and things reached the next level.
Yeah.
Yes, this was the era of Sami Uso, the Quebec native's eternally lovable attempts to become a fully fledged member of the Bloodline. And so good would he be in this role, it lifted the company itself to levels of popularity it hadn't seen in decades, with his eventual turn on the Tribal Chief at January 28, 2023's Royal Rumble being one of the most heated moments in recent memory. In fact, arguably the only moment which felt bigger than that came 1 month later when, in front of a rabid Montreal audience, the French-Canadian returned home to challenge Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Universal title. And sure, the fact that he lost this one did put somewhat of a damper on the night before it was over. That didn't change the fact that for a period in late 2022 and early 2023, Sami Zayn was the most over person in the entire wrestling industry by a country mile. Yes, it was a sign that WWE could still make stars.
now I think got themselves over and get over yourself are not the same thing. And it took me 7 minutes and 20 seconds within the video to realize that. Yay.
Like they had back in the old days. But then it wasn't like they never made stars during the latter days of Vince McMahon, to be fair, because just a few years prior to this, Becky Lynch successfully turned herself into the modern-day megastar with her meteoric rise in popularity.
We love Becky!
That's right. While 2022 heading into 2023 may have been the time of Sami Zayn, 2018 heading into 2019 was most certainly the time of the man. And that's because despite always being popular with fans, her levels of overness reached another level entirely when at the former year's SummerSlam, after weeks and months of slowly building herself up towards a #1 contendership spot for the SmackDown Women's title, she was seemingly thrown aside so that Charlotte Flair could win the belt instead. Needless to say then, this caused Becky to snap and turn on her fellow horsewoman, a move that was initially supposed to see her become a heel. Thankfully though, fans were having none of this, as they quickly saw her for the wronged hero she truly was. But to WWE's credit, they did quickly recognize this and changed course with the Irish woman accordingly, so that instead of being portrayed as a heel now, she was being portrayed as an anti-hero. And you all know what happened next. After an errant punch from walking Danger Zone Nia Jax sent her ricocheting into the WrestleMania main event, Becky Lynch became the first woman to ever win in a women's version of such a bout. Hell, she wouldn't just win this one, she'd become the first person to pin Ronda Rousey, and in the process would become the undisputed WWE Women's Champion.
Power couple!
Clearly then, this is an accolade she'll always be able to hang her hat on, as is the fact that for a while at least, she was the bona fide face of the company. And none of it would have happened had it not been for fans taking to her in such a big way back in the summer of 2018.
Yeah.
But this period didn't just see Becky rise in prominence. No, WrestleMania 35 also saw another person get over in such a way that they hit a career high right in time for the showcase of the Immortals. That said, the story of this one doesn't begin at SummerSlam 2018.
Kofi?
Rather, it began in early 2019 when Kofi Kingston found himself getting a last-minute spot in the Elimination Chamber match for the WWE title. Why was he subbed in so late? Well, the original entrant, Mustafa Ali, got injured at the last
I
minute,
haven't seen
and
him
so
in
a
action
replacement
at
was
all.
needed at the 11th hour.
Did he leave the
And
company?
luckily for WWE, Kofi Kingston was more than willing to pick up the ball at this point. Of course, he didn't just pick up the ball though. No, he ran with it all the way into the end zone, as over the course of that bout, he put on such a star-making performance that fans began getting behind him to such a large degree, the phenomenon would soon be given the name Kofi Mania. And Kofi Mania didn't end once Elimination Chamber was over either, as now, with a bigger wave of momentum behind him than ever, Kingston began setting his sights on challenging Daniel Bryan for the WWE title at WrestleMania just 2 months later. Sure, he and his New Day stablemates would have to jump through some hoops in order to get to this goal, but with audiences going crazy for them every step of the way, they were motivated that much more. And as a result, once it came time for the granddaddy of them all on April 7th, Kofi would not only get his shot at the American Dragon, but he'd beat him to win the gold. Yes, it was a scene so emotional, so satisfying for longtime fans, it has to rank up there with the likes of Mick Foley, Eddie Guerrero, and even Daniel Bryan himself's big wins. After all, this was just as much fans getting their moment as it was Kofi getting his. And because it was such a shared experience, it felt all the more powerful as a result.
Change.
Really, you could argue that as Sami Zayn never reached the mountaintop, nothing since has ever been able to match this one. Could someone get to that point again one day? Maybe, and who knows? Maybe it'll even be our next subject, as he's already gotten himself over with fans in a major way. Who are we talking about this time? Who else but L.A.
Oh my god, look at him! Younger! It looks like
he may have already
AI
gotten
picture.
a shot at Roman Reigns himself recently and come up short, but that doesn't mean everyone's favorite current cult WWE hit won't get another opportunity again before all is said and done. After all, in the space of just 2 years, he's gone from the bottom of the barrel as Max Dupree, the manager of the awesome but going nowhere except the undercard Maximum Male Models, all the way to the top of the card as L.A. Knight. Why has he gotten so popular so quickly? Maybe it's the nostalgic itch he scratches, as he's pretty much what would happen if you mix the characters of Steve Austin and The Rock and place them in modern-day WWE.
So true!
Or maybe it's the fact that he's been so undervalued for so long, once audiences realized how good he was, they wanted to make up for lost time. Either way, the fact remains that as it stands as of the time of this video's recording, L.A. Knight is one of the top baby faces in all of WWE. And when you consider the fact this is a roster which includes Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, main event Jey Uso,
he's
and
not
CM
a particular
Punk,
heel.
that's saying a lot.
I don't know.
And on top of this, he's become one of the top merchandise sellers in all of WWE.
Oh yeah,
further proving his true star power and potential to be a real top guy in the company. Yes, L.A. Knight truly has everything it takes to be a main eventer in WWE and has earned it over his 20-plus year career. That's right, Knight looks poised to reach the next level any day now, with the current speculation being he'll be the one to end everyone's misery and take the United States title off of Logan Paul at WrestleMania 40.
This video is 10 months old.
Who knows? Maybe he'll get that second shot at the world title and win it this time. Anything's possible. Hell, if you need any evidence of this statement being true, just look at how quickly the fortunes of our next subject, Damien Mizdow, changed when he started getting over with fans in 2014. And what makes this one even more impressive is it wasn't as if Damen Sandow had a reputation for being an overwhelming favorite of hardcore fans prior to that. No, while he was recognized as being a good performer, he never had the level of support someone like Bryan Danielson or Sami Zayn did. But this would change in the summer of 2014, as at this point, he'd begin playing the role of The Miz's stunt double, and in doing so, he'd become arguably the most entertaining—
How the hell would he be Miz's stunt double? Are we blind? Are you blind? Are they blind? Who's blind here?
part of all
Fujitora
of WWE
is
for a
blind.
while. Seriously, in the space of just a few months, Mizdow's comedic mimicking of every action Mike Mizanin made got so popular with live audiences, it turned him into an absolute superstar in record time. So over did it get, in fact,
I
after
love the
a while,
gimmick.
he was
Hey, he
clearly
could be Seth
overshadowing
Rollins'
the man
stunt
who was in kayfabe
double.
supposed to be his employer. Obviously then, this upset The Miz and led to him taking every opportunity he could to put his opponent down over the months that followed, with this only serving to get fans behind the
Miz.
underdog even more, as they wanted to see him finally step
Bad
out
boy.
from under the former WWE Champion's shadow. And that all led to things climaxing on the pre-show of WrestleMania 31, as it was here that, during the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, the Massachusetts native did what
Oi.
everyone was hoping
Oi.
he would when he
Oi.
eliminated The Miz and, in the process, turned babyface at last. Would this
Yay.
lead to a big-time run on top for Sandow?
Dude, Miz
Not
always,
exactly, because soon after he'd be right back where he
treats
started
his
in
friends
the undercard.
badly.
But that shouldn't take away from the fact that he got so
that's
over for a
mean.
short period of time. And it's not like he's the only person who became a major hit with fans who never got to the levels he should have. After all, Rusev was also hugely beloved by fans during the late 2010s when he developed the gimmick of Rusev Day. What exactly was
huge.
Rusev Day? Well,
Oh,
it was
yeah,
his
happy
way of getting
Rusev
himself
Day.
over in 2017.
Wait a minute. Isn't this on NXT or am I imagining this?
Sure, he had been given a push right out of the gate
Is he
back
on
in
NXT
2014
now?
when he won the United States title, but after that point, it felt very much like WWE had lost faith in the Bulgarian, despite the fact he was still one of the best performers on the roster. So, feeling the need to prove he still had plenty of value then, the man then known as Rusev began a gimmick where every day on the calendar was his day. And while this could have been stupid in the wrong hands, it was brilliant in
Trend
his.
in the background.
So, it's no surprise that fans quickly got behind this one and started chanting Rusev Day en masse every time he was on screen then. Sadly though, for whatever reason, Vince McMahon just didn't see anything in this one. And on that particular occasion, no amount
Happy
of fan
Lana Day.
revolt was going to change his decision to keep Rusev in the mid-card. Hell, so little did he see in him, despite the fact audiences were massively into this new gimmick everywhere they went, he'd even be released
Did he
from his
sell a lot of
contract in
merch?
2020, with him then moving over to All Elite Wrestling. But with it being rumored his AEW contract is coming up in the next year or so, there's every possibility he'll return to WWE at that point, as with Triple H now in control of the main
Yeah.
roster's
I
destiny.
feel like he's
something
back
like
on
Rusev
NXT.
Day would be far more well received
I need to
backstage
check that
today.
again.
And Rusev isn't the only one
Let's actually check before we finish with the Rusev one. He's in AEW 2020 to the present day.
of day would be far more well received backstage today. And Rusev isn't the only one who'd likely be better received for his creativity in getting over with fans in modern day WWE, as our next subject, Zack Ryder, would no doubt be treated similarly. After all, this is the man who turned himself into an absolute phenomenon in 2011. And the way he did that was to utilize the internet in a way no other wrestler before him had. Seriously, years before the Young Bucks were making waves with being the Elite, the man currently known as Matt Cardona was beating them to the punch by starting his own YouTube series entitled Z, True Long Island Story.
Oh, this guy!
Then, this appealed to a younger demographic than
now
WWE
know.
were used to appealing to at the time, and led to a whole wave of fan interest for Ryder, which hadn't been there before. Hell, so over did he get that during one promo segment with The Rock later that year, fans drowned out the great one with chants of "We Want Ryder." Unfortunately for Long Island Ice Z though, Vince McMahon wouldn't capitalize on this momentum. Rather, he'd outright bury the performer for daring to get over on his own.
So mean.
And that's a true shame because, as it was never really taken to the level it could have gone to, some fans have since forgotten just how over Zack Ryder truly was back in 2011. But it's not like it's been all bad for him since, because the fan support he gained back then has remained strong enough that even in his post-WWE career, he's been able to carve out a nice spot for himself as the King of the Indies, a man now more likely to be found having a chaotic death match with Nick Gage over in GCW than going 3 minutes with Baron Corbin on an episode of Raw. So good is he in this role currently, in fact, if he ever does go back to WWE, he'd have to be placed in a bigger role at this point. As with the support of audiences willing him on, he's proven he can be far more than he ever was allowed to be in the major leagues during his first run
This is
there.
when you have to create yourself.
And that just goes to show you the
Nobody
importance of
else
fans
supports
taking
you.
to someone organically and getting them over then, because if a performer can do this, they'll have a connection with them which will last for the rest of their careers and beyond, keeping them strong and in work forevermore, no matter where else life takes them.
Yee. Is Chelsea his wife or something? Let me actually Google that. Matt Cardona. I knew it! I had a feeling! I had a feeling. So she's in the company and he is not. Oy, 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 oy. Okay. But that is it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like this video and check out my Patreon for more WWE reaction. Have a wonderful day and see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Bye!